Hello, Kelsey. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Have a seat. I'm fine, thanks.
Thank you.
How are things?
Good.
Did you get my feedback from your?
Yes, but well, I didn't see any comments in my Google Drive, so I can.
Okay, it's not in Google Drive. I actually uploaded a Word document. I did a little bit differently for this feedback. I opened up a Word document and included feedback in a Word document, and then I uploaded that Word document in Canvas. If you go to the main page in Canvas, and you go to grades and literature review, on the right hand side you'll receive like a comment, and you'll see right in this area a link to a Word document, and from here you can download it to your computer.
Yeah, let me check the rubric and
uh-huh. So here you should be able to access this. If not, let me know. But here's where I left all the comments. So I'll be providing feedback for each product in this fashion, doing it on a separate Word document. All of the comments I'll continue doing in Google Drive. So this will be, you need to open up the document and go back and forth and make the changes. So the way I'm grading each individual product is that I am giving a grade, and I'm grading it as if it were the end result, like what I would expect if I were looking at it at the very end. And with the idea being that with the feedback that I'm giving you, that you're going to have time to make changes until May 23rd. When I look at your final draft on May 23rd, I will look at it again and give another grade, and if you've made those changes, you should get a better grade in your first draft when I look at that, and then I'll go back and adjust the individual grades accordingly. So even though so if you're not happy with the grade that you have now, don't be concerned, because we still have time to improve it, and I will modify all the grades if that first draft has been improved based on what I saw before.
If we still send you messages so you can
Absolutely. So any questions, if you're not sure about my feedback and you want to discuss something, we can either discuss it in tutoring sessions, or if we need to schedule additional time, that's fine, or you can send me emails, but we'll continue working the same way, making changes. I would recommend that you go in and make those changes as soon as possible while it's still fresh, and then you can kind of focus on everything else. But yeah, you still have plenty of time. We can still work on cleaning it up as necessary. Now, this week we're starting week 6, and we have 4 weeks now to design our instruments, okay, for our data collection. So we need to look now very closely at your research questions, because now we need to figure out how we're going to answer our research questions. So let me open up your document. Okay, dokie. So let's go to your research questions here. Alright, so how does a teacher use Facebook to communicate with social talk, and how do English language educators integrate Facebook? Alright. What are you thinking? What type of instruments are you considering?
I thought about implementing, using, like making interviews, and then a focus group with the 3 or 4 teachers.
So how many teachers are you considering?
I don't know if 3 or 4. Is it 4 too much?
Might be.
Just 3 or 2. I don't know. Like I was.
All right. The first question I have, maybe we should start from the beginning. How do you plan on finding the teachers that are using
Facebook groups?
I
have used Facebook groups with Toño, and I wanted to ask him.
So okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Toño and Carmen or Carla. I also have a new teacher, that's me, and we are also using Facebook groups right now. So I haven't asked them yet, but I was thinking of them. I will do that today maybe.
And so all the teachers are in the BA?
Yeah.
And can you tell me the classes that they are teaching, where they use Facebook?
Yeah. Well, academic writing.
Okay.
And we contaña along the time, and we come in a practicas. Eran diferentes, different me. Pero no recuerdo ahorita, like, all.
Carla, do you remember?
Carla, oh yeah, well, right now I'm using it.
In
Can
what
I
class?
use it?
Oh, you're using it right.
Is it not?
Okay, well, let's think about it. What's the class?
No, de material.
Didáctica, de diseño
Something
de
like that,
material. Didáctica.
And we just mean is business.
Material design. And what was the other one? Business?
Yeah,
Business English?
business.
And who's teaching that?
Just me?
She's using Facebook?
Yeah, we're using Facebook to send links
And so this semester you have this class, Business English and Material Design? Any others that you can think of?
Well, I have a lot that in my Facebook. Like, I don't remember right now. Like the...
I'm trying to think. If you can, about doing research in a class that you're taking now. Because you're going to be in the class.
Yes.
And...
Or should I look for another teacher that I have used before? Or
a teacher who's
right
using
now,
it currently,
like
right?
asking with other students. Maybe Carlita always add us at Facebook group, so maybe I can ask her if she's using it right now with other group.
And okay. And because you want to be looking for a teacher who's using it where there are examples of social talk that you're referring to in your research question, and who are using it to integrate it, so they're integrating some sort of offline or outside of class within class activities.
Data integration, like tourists,
so one way to do it if you know the teachers who are doing this, I'm just trying to think the best way to do this. And one way would be to do like a questionnaire and send it to most of the teachers or all the teachers and ask them if they are using Facebook. Or ask them first, are you using Facebook? And if they say yes, would you mind filling out this a questionnaire, a very basic short questionnaire so that you can see how they're currently using it. And then based on that, choose 2 teachers or just a few teachers that are, I think up to 2 teachers would be enough.
2 teachers? Okay.
But I think it would be better if you find teachers that you aren't in that class, and if possible.
Yes.
And obviously who are using it this semester. And so hopefully you can find.
I think Toño always
okay.
add us to Facebook group, so I will ask him.
Okay, so
right now
maybe let's think of one data source that we'll have, because we need to think about triangulating our information. So one data source will be this questionnaire.
Oh yeah, questionnaire.
And then interviews will be another. So we'll have questionnaire, interviews.
I don't know if focus group or analyzing.
Well, okay, so interviews, questionnaire. Your other data source will be the Facebook group itself. So you're going to be doing an analysis of that. So Facebook group, and that's another data source. So we got 1, 2, 3. Now, the question is, do you need to observe our class? If you're to get information about your second research question, how are they integrating?
That is like...
Or what? Or you're going to need evidence somehow how they're integrating. If you want to keep this question here, you're going to have evidence. So the only evidence that you're going to be able to get, I mean, you could ask them, but that isn't the same. You could ask them, but you also need to observe it. So one question would be maybe when one of these interviews would be to ask them, are you planning on doing some sort of activity, something, yeah. And they might say, oh yeah, this Friday, da, da, da. So then you on that day go in, observe. Because if you just pick a random day, they may or may not be doing it.
Yeah.
So I think the observation, you won't have to observe a lot, I don't think, but you need to observe at least one activity, I would think.
Per teacher, right?
Per teacher.
So it's interviews.
So these two, the questionnaires and the observations are going to be fairly light. Okay, this is basically to filter.
I need to make the transcription of the interview, right?
The interviews, yeah, I mean you're going to need to record all of the interviews, and you'll probably need to transcribe those. Yeah. Facebook group, observation. Now, you have questions, you talk in your literature review, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, about, I mean, you're talking about social talk and informal and how students are, this kind of collaborative learning type of thing. Are you interested in how the students react to using Facebook, or are you just focusing on it? Just on the teachers? So you're looking for examples of social talk.
Yeah, but maybe when I am analyzing the Facebook group, I can even
Because you're asking about transcribing, and I think you're probably going to need to transcribe more of the Facebook.
Yeah, like the key example, right? Like this is a student, I don't know, commented teacher line.
Right, and it's going to be depending on the forum, the exchange. You're going to have to do a discourse analysis and by time also. So for example, if they post a question Monday, then on Wednesday one person responds, you're going to have to transcribe that so that it's clear. You have a system of analyzing that, saying, okay, this is the exchange, so this is the initial post, this is the response, this is the follow-up. And you could even break it down into exchange if you want to do initiation, response, follow-up, but indicate the time, and that time will also be analyzed in the sense that, how long does it take to respond in this type, and all that is kind of part of the analysis, right, in the whole topic of social talk. So that's another thing. And does that make sense? You see what I'm so the interviews, you may not need to have like a transcription of the whole thing. I mean, you're going to have to listen to it, and you need the direct quotes, right? But not necessarily an analysis necessarily, just basically to have that. But the Facebook group, that's going to be really the heart of your analysis, and the interaction, how they bring it into the class. So you'll be looking at, and I think the interviews are going to be very much related to that integration piece, the observation that you do with the Facebook. So you need to decide when you want to apply these interviews, but you might want to wait until after, at the very end, after you have some evidence here, you've done kind of a quick analysis where you this could inform your interview guide and how you ask questions, like what questions you're going to ask. So you ask specific questions about what you observed and what you analyzed online.
So first I need to analyze the interaction.
I think so. I mean, kind of a quick analysis, because it's going to take time to do a full analysis, so you don't have to do the entire analysis. But you want what you observed here, because I'm thinking about if you interviewed first, okay, you could ask questions about the planning, but it's really about the implementation. No, it's about social talk, and so you don't have a lot of questions about how they plan. So I don't necessarily see a need to do an interview at the beginning.
Mhm.
The interview, I would say, needs to be based on what you find out about this. And so you'll need to do kind of a quick analysis. You'll just kind of have to look at it and say, okay, and you'll see things, you'll see patterns, and you'll see things that you need to ask about, that you want to know more about. So things that maybe aren't revealed in your analysis when you just look at it. You may say, well, why do some students respond longer or later than others, or why do it just depends on whatever you see. But the information that you have here will inform your interviews. That's the point. So
will guide me to create my questions, right?
yeah. So the point here is that in this case, we may not have our design for our interview guide until later, after you've already started
But
the data collection.
First, I need to create this questionnaire, right?
Right. The first thing is the questionnaire.
And then I apply the questionnaire to the teacher, and then should I ask the teacher to add me to the Facebook group, like to be a member, even though I'm not in the class?
Well, it depends. If it's an open group, right, then you can just look at it, right? If it's a public group. If it's a private group, then you're probably going to need to ask if you can. And in your questionnaire, one of the questions you're going to have, besides the use of Facebook, is, would you mind if I participate in or do a study?
Yeah,
would you mind participating in a study where I do this? Would you mind if I join your Facebook group? And so in the questionnaire too, it's going to indicate, and hopefully they're all going to be willing to do that. I think they will, but you can indicate in there that if they're open to doing that. And
then analyze it. And then according to what I found here, should I add the teacher when going to connect?
Okay, yeah. So you have your questionnaire and you have your results. You analyze your results and say, okay, I'm going to focus on these two teachers. Then you have a conversation with the teacher, and you ask those two teachers, okay, over the next 3 weeks, and you should plan as much as you can the 2 or 3 or 4 weeks that you have for your data collection. Say, okay, can you describe a little bit about how you're using it? Which days, how often do they use it? Maybe you have. So go back to the interviews. Maybe you do have an initial interview about how they use it. Okay, now that I think about it. Yeah, just very. Yeah, but not so much in detail. It's more like
general.
Yeah.
Well, not general, but like to get an idea of what they are doing, how they are working.
I think if they agree that you can join their group, okay. I think the first thing is to look at their exchanges here. And then later we can decide on if you need an initial interview or not.
Yeah.
And it could not. Maybe it's not even an interview. It's just like, okay, I have chosen you to do the research. Do you agree? Okay. Can I join your group? And then just start from there. And then once you kind of look at it, you can kind of think about, okay, what questions will I ask now? And maybe you have a couple of interviews, depending. So I think the first thing would be just to look at this and analyze it first. And then if you think you need one right away, then schedule one right away and ask when do they plan on implementing in class. And
can I record the classes or just like
I would record it.
So first I need to create my questionnaire and I send it to you so you can look at it, and then if it's like it goes to the teachers and then implement the questionnaire. Then
that's it.
I need to decide and ask them about it if they can. Okay. Well.
Does that make?
Yeah.
The first thing is the questionnaire. And once you have the results from the questionnaire, you'll choose the teachers. And then the first thing is to talk to the teachers very briefly about if you can just ask them, may I join your group? Right. And from the questionnaire, they should have responded that they are open for you to do the research. So it's just a matter of them giving you the information. And then you say, I may be asking for an interview here in a few days, but first thing I just want to go into that, to the Facebook group. Go in the Facebook group, look at it, think about the interview, when you want to have the next interview, then schedule that.
about the
Right.
observer classes.
Yeah, exactly.
And then again,
And then-
interviews after.
Yeah. Yeah. Now the interviews, let's just play it by ear.
Okay.
You don't. You're probably going to have at least 2 interviews, I would say.
Yeah. So
But you may need more depending on the information that they give you.
So I need 2 teachers, right? To choose.
I think 2 would be enough.
Okay. So maybe, well, I think I will create my questionnaire this weekend so you can look at it.
Okay.
And maybe next week that's like.
Yeah, if you want me to look at it before our next tutoring session, that's fine. At this point, we have 4 weeks. In fact, we're basically finishing this week, so we only have 3 weeks. But anyway, as soon as you have your instruments done, you can begin with the data collection. We don't have to wait 4 weeks. So I'm going to go at your pace. Whenever you have stuff and you want me to look at it, even before your tutoring session, just come by, bring it by, or send it to me. If it's a questionnaire, I'd prefer to just briefly look at it face to face so I can make comments and make notes. I think it'd be quicker and easier for both of us. That way, too, you can ask questions if you're not sure if how I'm giving it, and then you can free to apply it and start doing the data collection. And so some of the instruments that we do, we won't actually be designing exactly the way they're going to end up until after you've already started your data collection. For example, the interview guide. So we can kind of discuss that as these results start coming in. You don't have to do a full analysis, but you are going to be kind of looking at the analysis as you go along and figuring out, in this case, how you're going to develop your interview guide.
And for this questionnaire, I don't need to ask them like specific details about the way in which they use Facebook groups right now. I only need to ask them if they use Facebook groups.
If they use it if they're
how
currently
often,
using,
and,
yeah, keep it all like what are they doing now?
Yeah.
Not so much how have you used Facebook in the past. No, it's more like are you using it now? Okay, yes, okay. If you're using it now, how are you using it? How often?
Yeah.
Basically, how are you using it? And hopefully with that, it's going to be an open question, and they're descriptive enough to let you know kind of how often. You might have a second question or third question that states or asks, do you implement face-to-face class with your the activities in Facebook, or are they completely isolated? And then they can tell you, oh, we do this, and maybe you put in a note, indicate how often or how, or so that they then express that information to you, and you can kind of see how they do it. So, and then I would apply it, to all those teachers obviously that you think are using it, but you might ask around and see if there's some other teachers that are using Facebook this semester, and the more that you can apply, the better. Thinking just in terms of the BA. And then from there, then you can choose. So the reason for the questionnaire is that you are choosing systematically, right? The 2 teachers in this case, because this is going to be kind of a case study. You need to have a rationale why you chose these 2 teachers. How are they different in some way, right? And what was unique about it? What was your rationale for choosing those 2 teachers? So whenever you're presenting, you can write that up in your thesis, why you chose them, and you can explain that, right? Because they may say, well, why did you choose that? So you don't say, well, they're just I just like this teacher, or whatever. But at this point, let's try to choose classes that you're not taking. If this becomes a problem, let me know, and we can think about it and see how we want to do this. But I think preferably it would be better to choose other teachers. All this. Any questions? Doubts?
Right now, no.
No? Okay. All right. If you have any questions about your literature review or your feedback, let me know too. Please check it today and let me know if you don't receive it. I'll try to send it again. And we'll just keep at it.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll see you. Bye.
Have a nice day.
Thank you. You too.